Hey everybody, Kenny here. So this is going to be a series of mid-league builds that I'm putting out mainly because I messed up and just ran out of content. and these were builds that I was working on for next league, but I'm breaking them out early just so I have something on my channel for the for this week. For anyone who hasn't watched any of my build videos before, I make builds for casual Path of Exile players. That means, you know, if you're someone who has thousands of hours in the game and have regularly gone to pinnacle content and wrecked the like the Ubers and all that, then this is not for you. This is content for people who maybe they'll get to maps. Maybe they'll get there. Maybe they'll finish the campaign. But sometimes not. You know, like casual is casual. You know, casual means that you don't really have too much time to play the game. So you're just looking for something that is fun for the interim of when you have time to play the game. Yeah, so with that out of the way, these builds are also always going to be centered around transfigured gems. So those are special versions of the gems that exist in Path of Exile that have special effects that are different than the core gems in the game, just to add a little extra flavor to what we're doing here. Out of the way, let's get going. So first up is actually just a quick update to the Scion build that I recommended at the start of the league. Unfortunately, and this was just me hoisting myself up on my own petard. I had made the onerous assumption that because the skill gem Call to Arms had just been introduced at the start of the Necropolis League, that there was no way that at the start of the next league that the devs would decide, you know what, we don't need that gem anymore. Which is what happened. Call to Arms gem got replaced by the Auto Exertion gem. And to be fair, Auto Exertion does have more value to having in a melee build than Call to Arms did. Call to Arms had a very specific function and was pretty much exactly what I was doing with it, which was having it paired up with Enduring Cry so that you had a nice little extra heal, just like kind of periodically. But now that Enduring Cry no longer has the big extra heal every time it goes off, so you can see now instead of having the flat heal, it instead gives you a buff that gives you life regen based on the amount of power you have. And now Auto Exertion, unlike Call to Arms, this reserves an amount of your resource that you're using for supporting the skill. So, you know, if you have blood magic in some way, then, you know, you'll reserve health instead of mana. But because it reserves mana now, you can no longer go and do like you can't do like Auto Exertion and also do Corrupting Cry, because Corrupting Cry has a massive cost increase when you're reserving. You can see 1,000%. So if you were to do Auto Exertion with any War Cry, doesn't matter what the War Cry is, any War Cry and Corrupting Cry, this combination does not work anymore. But you can still support Enduring Cry with Corrupting Cry and just just regularly use it to get the extra corrupted blood stacks on enemies around you whenever your War Cry goes off. However, automation with Criminal Call still works just fine. They didn't make any changes to that. Well, the main change that I made here, so all the gear is still the same, like pretty much all the skills are still the same, but now for our Animate Weapon of Self-Reflection, instead of it being a cast on crit thing, We instead have auto exertion supporting Battle Mage's Cry, which is then causing us to summon our animated weapons whenever we're exerting our Battle Mage's Cry stacks. So, so it's a more dependable way of getting the animate weapons, and it opens up the option for us to support our dual strike of ambidexterity with more damage. So we're supporting our dual strike with trauma, ancestral call, and faster attacks. And the reason that we are supporting it this way is that we are using the gavel and siege axe, and trauma requires that the weapons that you're using can only be axes, maces, scepters, or staves. So we're using this particular set of 2 weapons for the purpose of making sure that we can do dual strike of ambidexterity, which requires a different weapon in each hand, like a weapon of a different type in each hand, and trauma, which requires one of those 4 weapon types. Then ancestral call for just making it that we are able to hit more enemies when we use our dual strike, and faster attacks, so we're attacking faster. Fairly simple. I've made no changes to our auras. We're still using Summon Stone Golem and Rejuvenating Totem. And as you can see, I have the full reset option. So our skill build is still exactly as it was. There are no changes between what I had in the beginning of the league and what I have now. So just to go over the highlights on what makes the build work. For damage, all of our damage comes from this cluster right here. But just by getting dual wield damage and block from there, dual wield damage and attack speed from there, dual wield damage and attack speed from there, and the ambidexterity notable passive, we get a massive amount of extra damage and attack speed. And by getting the dual wield mastery, we have a massive amount of extra damage if we have 2 different weapons, which we are using dual strike of ambidexterity. So it perfectly improves the damage we deal just by taking this 1 mastery. From this attack cluster here, this gets us extra melee damage, extra melee strike range, and also makes it that our melee strike skills deal splash damage. So if any enemies around the enemies that we hit are receiving splash damage from our attack. So, and we have our ancestral call on our skill so that it can hit enemies from further away. So we're able to hit a very large area with a strike skill by having this combination. Then the attack mastery that we took here is to make it that monsters cannot block our attacks. So we can be evaded, but we cannot be blocked. And then just trying to get as much accuracy as we can get, as much crit chance as we can get. So more crit chance here, more crit chance with maces here, and as much health as we could build up on here, as many defenses as we could build up on here. We have adamant, so that anytime we use a guard skill, we remove any corrupted blood that happens to be on us, which is a great bit of support that we have. And then I have 2 jewels that serve the purpose of just making us slightly more effective. So this one increases our attack speed while dual wielding or wielding maces and scepters, which are what we're using. And this one increases our attack speed with maces and scepters further, and increases our life and block recovery, although block doesn't really matter much for us. And our ascendancies are that we're using Guardian, so that we have the big heal every 4 seconds. It makes it that we get some additional recovery from our auras, and also we have some extra chance to block, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. Then we took the Juggernaut so that we cannot be chilled or stunned. We have the big bonus to our accuracy. We gain increased damage per evasion charge, and we gain an endurance charge, per endurance charge, not evasion charge. And we gain endurance charges every second if we've been hit recently, which is something that we're also able to trigger because we have the trauma support gem connected to our main attack skill. Now before we head in, just to go over my defenses, we can see the amount of armor and evasion I currently have, the amount of regeneration that I have, and my current resistances that I have from my gear. And we have some amount to block because they buffed blocking while dual wielding. So it used to be 15% base, now it's 20% base. And then we have a little bonus because of that first node when you enter that dual wield cluster that I showed before. So that's the entirety of our defenses. We can see that offensively, like, we have a pretty decent little skill here. An okay chance to crit, since now we're not really focused on critting as much anymore because we're not doing a cast on crit thing. And a pretty good chance to hit. Alright, so let's head on in. Now, one issue with this build that hopefully we're not going to see, I mean, we might see it right now because this is one of the things that can cause it. But like when we run into anything that can cause lots of enemies to spawn at the same time, it can, like, this build can cause the game to crash. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if, like, it's just that they didn't consider the interaction between auto exertion, Battle Mage's Cry, and enemy weapon of self-reflection. Like, I'm not sure if that's what it is, but like something like anytime like I have a lot of enemies spawn while I'm using this build, the game tends to crash. So we'll see if that happens this time. So the game didn't crash, which is good. Yeah, so maybe they found that issue and finally patched it out. Actually, I kept on running into that when I would be mapping with this character.
I have nothing more to give. But a moment's respite?
Yeah, unfortunately, like, we're still in a situation where, like, enemies with very high health as elite mobs with life regen don't really, unfortunately, like, we don't really get the damage we need to be able to take them down with this build. But aside from those, like, it's still pretty good against pretty much everything else. Yeah, we're still massively tanky.
I have nothing.
So like every time you see us like seeming to be like in danger, like we're the ones doing that to ourselves. That's trauma. That's that's the built up trauma that's causing that. It's not the enemy hitting us. It's us hitting ourselves. Oh my goodness, I finally got a Rise of the Phoenix. I have been trying to get this unique for so many years. This is one of the oldest uniques in the game, and this is my first time finding one. Huzzah.
Nothing more to give.
Just calm down our trauma a little. All right. I'm not resistance capped, so bound to happen.
Can I not have but a moment's respite?
There we go. Yeah, so still a very nice tanky build. As I mentioned, we're not resistance capped at all. So, that is an issue, but like chaos damage at this point in the game is to be expected. So, that is it's more on me for not having expect it anyway to be further along in my cast resistance. So, so it's not an issue with the camera. Not camera. It's not an issue with the character. It's an issue with just my gear for not having anything to handle chaos damage at the time. Like, I could put on a flask for it, but I didn't, so. Yeah, so still a very nice little build, and something that is definitely good for any, like, any lower difficulty stuff. Overall, there is a very nice and tanky character that doesn't rely on block chance or spell suppress or any of those things at the moment. Yep, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks everybody for stopping by and checking out. If you found these tips useful, appreciate doing YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, Vivictus, Fires to Damaris, and bye.